Good morning, good morning, good morning. Again, I hope you're enjoying these videos. Yeah, I've got a comment here. Yeah, Iridology Online's been there. I will tell you, when you come to Iridology, keep in mind there's going to be different thoughts on the way you read eyes. There are differences out there in thoughts on Iridology. I'm going to show you one case here, a famous magician's wife's case that just tremendous changes in the eye, and I'll have three of them to show you, and to show you the tremendous differences that you can make in the color and the fibers of the eye. But yeah, Iridology is simple. Keep it simple. Don't try to read too much into it, because that can be problematic. And then there's some people that have gotten out of balance with it and start telling people that they drove their car down to the grocery store yesterday by looking at their eye. I had one German guy tell somebody they'd been on a trip for a couple of weeks. I mean, you know, balance, 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 I will tell you. Yeah, I'm going to rip through these questions again here. And yes, this comment today on the Lymph Node 2. We probably should have some kind of warning label. We really haven't been aware of it that long. This is a relatively new formula that I've had out in the sense that we just went from liquids to capsules. Who would have thought? You know, so very aggressive. And you had commented with your skin. Yeah, I mean, it didn't hurt you, but very aggressive. I remember once we had this young baby really in trouble, and the parents were so aggressive that the skin started peeling off. I mean, it grew back beautiful, but that's what I mean about weaknesses. You get too aggressive in detox and it'll strip you down, because it'll literally strip the weaknesses out. Remember the story about the girl and her fingernails fell off? And I've seen cases where I've told you, a pancreatic case where the teeth all got loose and abscesses all over. And I mean, the body's going to transform. And that's what people don't understand about detox. So sorry about anybody that had trouble with the Lymph Node 2 formula, but real powerful. We had no idea either, you know. We had it in tincture for years and never had a problem. Always thought it was real good, you know. So, yeah, that's herbs can get. I learned one thing: don't ever underestimate herbs, because they will literally kick your butt. They're great, but they can kick your butt. I remember I went down in a coma, almost near a coma, with Peruvian bark, and I've always wanted to call Christopher's son and say, get that out of your book, because it is too dangerous of an herb to have out there for people to have some idea that they could use it, because it's about dosages when it comes into real strong toxic herbs. And there's not a lot of them, and of course I looked all through my repertoire years ago to see if anything could have any toxic effects, and I've never found any. It's just that this formula and that at that level can kick butt. But so I wanted to go through these, and so many great questions here. I'm loving it. You guys are smarting up and getting more questions. One question here that I want to address first. Somebody asked me, well, here was one: is it possible to have an out-of-body experience at any stage of health? Absolutely, absolutely, and they can come when you least expect it, especially if you're thinking more about that. I think Dr. Oz has got a program on today about out-of-body experiences. I'm not sure how to take it from the commercial, because it looks like he's trying to show it's hooked to brain synapses and the shutdowns of these synapses. But then I think it went on to something that he had an experience about an out-of-body experience or something. I'm not sure. You have to watch Dr. Oz today. I think it's on today. And it talks about out-of-body experiences. But there's been plenty of books written about it from cardiologists and heart surgeons in reference to near-death experiences on the table. So the thought has always been, of course, if you can have an out-of-body experience in a near-death situation, why can't you have it now? What shakes you out of the body? Why can't you learn to just move your attention away from your physical body? And this ties into the question that someone asked me, how do you genetically regenerate cells? And I've covered this before, but I'm just going to tap on that lightly because, and I don't want to burn up too much time on this one because it's kind of linked between the spiritual one and the health one, if you can separate those two. That's why I say that even if you're in Christianity, if you're in Buddhism, of course they're much more open to that, but in Islamic teachings, it doesn't matter. We have to start expanding the way we see the Supreme Being. What man's doing is limiting the Supreme Being, and it's an insult to the Supreme Being. We have to understand that something, just look at this one physical universe, and you see how many galaxies, how many planets. I mean, we have no clue. When some scientist is dropping sand out of her hand saying there's 1 billion planets for every grain of sand on this planet, and you think how many grains of sand could possibly be on this planet, your mind could not comprehend anything like that. So I've always thought that it's important for man to understand the fundamental makeup of creation. Very, very important, and I think you can prove it in any way you look at that. And that you have to separate your physical body from your emotions and from your thoughts, and then you from all three of those things. You really have to consider, for those of us that already know and have experienced these things, but from an intellectual viewpoint, you have to look at this and say, okay, the physical body is just physical science. It's just chemistry and physics. And remember, we've talked about in quantum physics that they proved that all matter is really nothing but frequencies of electromagnetic energy. Sometimes you can't see energy. How do you define consciousness or your awareness? You know, you can't define it in physical terms. There's no way. And for scientists to do that just shows the constipation of science. Can't do it anymore. You can't stay constipated in science. That's dark agey stuff. You must go beyond that and understand that there is awareness. There's life beyond physical matter. Physical matter is probably the most inert matter or inert area of God there is. The most constipated, the most restricted area of creation there is. This area you're in right now in the physical body. But you have emotions. How do you describe emotions? There's few words that describe them. Feelings, sensory perception. We can say, well, our senses. No. Then that is a whole level of awareness, emotional awareness. It's called the astral world, but it is the emotional component of a person connected to the adrenal glands. Then you have the thought, the mind, and the mind has been divided up into three separate major planes. You have the causal mind, which is where life is conceived in creation. And I've talked about the universal mind. That's plugging into God's universal mind, the mind of God, if you want to call it that way, loosely speaking. So you have to understand that for God to create anything, it has to go through several layers, several processes, just like you do. We talked about this before, where you have thought, and then you have to have something that motivates thought. That's emotions. And then at the final creation is in this level, but it's also being created in all these finer, more etheric worlds. That's why when you have a limb removed, you have the phantom limb syndrome, where you still feel an arm that's been cut off, because it still exists in the emotional body. It still exists in the mental body. And you can't see it physically, but you can see it astrally. You can see it electrically. So it's just understanding the way creation is put together, and that not even a cell can be at this level without emotions and thought. There's impossible. Nothing can be at this level that doesn't have those three components to them. It's essential. And so it's just understanding that energy and awareness is the fundamental essence of life. And if you look at a cell and consider a cell like a person, when we come into this world, we're totally conditioned by our parents, our society, the town we live in, our government, how patriotic we are. Some people, we look at some people and go, you really believe that? You know, and some countries are just stifle the growth that their people can have. They brainwash them from kids that America is bad or this is bad or whatever. And so we have this fundamental conditioning of the mind and emotions. This sets the journey for the individual soul and what that soul is going to experience and what that soul pulls into them. Cells are exactly the same way, except we call it genetics. And this genetic pattern, this genetic memory pattern, comes out of the family genes. You can't deny that. Everybody looks like their parents in some way or another, some almost exactly. Your little dad, little mom, maybe a little grandmother. Oh, look, she's got her Aunt Hilda's nose. You know, I mean, this is the way it is. But can you take your memories and when you're conditioning and drop that and go beyond into, oh, look, America's not so bad, it's just corruption, you know, or whatever? Can you go beyond your idealisms? A lot of people are letting the fundamental Christianity down and going more into the Jesus Christianity, which is more agnostic, which is more etheric, which teaches my Father's mansion has many rooms, which teaches more of an etheric look. And so people are dropping the very constipated fundamental type of thinking. And it's essential if you want to grow and experience God, because the fundamentals have accentuated the ego and made people think they're the great ones and no one else is. And that kind of thinking is, you know, has to be buried, just like the medical community and the way they treat this phantom idea of diseases. We must, as a civilization on this planet at this level, go further. If God wants to experience greater things, we as souls have to open ourselves up to that, but maybe everything is as it should be. But understanding genetics is as important as understanding that everything is at levels of awareness. And the only thing I can tell you about that is you have to go to quantum physics and say that all things are frequencies of energy, and energy has intelligence. And so it's very difficult for the average person to associate something they can't see physically with the way it's running etherically, such as the mind. And thoughts and emotions. We know we've got them. We know we've got memories, but we know animals have memories. We know plants have memories. We know cells have memories. But we know those memories can be increased, can expand by giving the greater experience. And a good example of this, if I sucked half the energy out of your body, the lights would start to dim. You would start to isolate into a world of darkness, and your body would start shriveling up. If I pump you twice as much energy as you have right now, you start seeing things you never saw before. And this is where meditation, proper prayer, things come in like that, because when you stop thinking, you expand. You start seeing things you didn't see before. You start understanding things because you've dropped the conditioning of thought and emotions. You've dropped what you thought was true. You've dropped what you were told was true, and now you're seeing truth. And that makes a big difference in your ability to understand God and your relationship with others and with all of life. And then you start to see people that have done that start seeing everything as more one. Everybody starts seeing things with more love, and that we're all together here. We're all one. to that point, everybody's isolated and you're good, you're bad, and everything like that. But you have to understand that applies at the cellular level. This is why raw foods are essential. You can't regenerate tissue at the fundamental level of cooked foods and dead animal meat and stuff like this. It's just impossible because we're eating intelligence. When you're eating a piece of fruit, you're eating intelligence. You're eating chemistry and you're eating physics, but you're also eating God. You have to understand you're eating at a lot of different levels here. It's just these higher levels of awareness and consciousness and energetics are not well understood because we're still lost in this fundamental thinking of chemistry. And you have to add chemistry with physics if you want to understand anything. To a chemist, everything's inorganic, basically. You know, and I've had my own way of looking at inorganic and organic. And organic is consciousness that everything's tied together, everything is holistic, nothing is isolated. Isolates are inorganic. They lack the power and the magnetics. They're not readily absorbed into the body. They're isolated. They cause side effects. It's where pharmaceutical companies don't get it. You don't isolate chemistry in this world. You're isolating God, and therefore you have much more of an abrasive effect. So the generation of genetics is important to understand because we see it all the time. That's the beauty of God, is the ability to go beyond, the ability to take what is in the moment and expand it even greater, or isolate it down and destroy it. But you can't really destroy it, but you can break it down to its most constipated states, its most inert or inorganic states. So understanding and letting your ability to be aware is important in understanding how genetics works and how creation is set up, because it'll help you in your spirituality. It'll help you the rest of your life to go beyond physical mundane chemistry and get into more of the physics, the quantum physics, into spirituality, and get above things and see. It's a lot different view standing on the beach looking over to the ocean and standing on a 10,000 foot mountaintop and looking out over the land. A big difference. Big difference in getting in a helicopter and flying around and being John Glenn and being near the moon and looking back. Big difference in the view. And that's the point. It's a big difference in the view when you stop thinking and you stop talking and you live in the present moment as much as you can. It's a big view change. But then you must start asking the question, then who's the viewer? And then that takes you deeper into this world. So I apologize to get taken off on that, but I think it's real important today that we learn, at least allow ourselves to expand and understand how creation's put up, because that's how you're put together. That's how you as soul operate here in creation. If you understand that, it'll help you. And it'll help you understand that you're so much more than this physical body and the pain and suffering you're in. You have to quit identifying with your bodies and separate yourself and learn the rules of the road. Each plane has different rules to it. And I'm giving you some of the rules for this plane. All right. I'm glad you guys like that iridology. I thought it came out pretty cool. It's online, of course, and everything, but just keep that in mind that many people view different things, like the yellow rings around the body. You'll see a lot of different things. So, and it doesn't matter. You know, if you get the fundamental basics and stuff, you really can see that person and see what they're suffering with, understand how you identify the lymph. I'll get deeper into it and we will really expand that. Lyme's. This is a question that I have an adult daughter who has Lyme disease. Everybody has Lyme disease, sweetheart. Katrina. I mean to tell you, it's another catch-all drawer. I can only tell you that Lyme's, lupus, fibromyalgia, all this stuff is one thing, and that is systemic acidosis. And systemic acidosis occurs when the lymph system isn't moving well. Whether one has a viral load, a bacterial load, we'll always have bacterial loads, hopefully. But obviously, there's gnarly bacteria out there, no question about it. And viruses, they either going to take a hold or they're not. But it all is relative to culturing mediums and weak cells. Those two things reflect cells and the fluids that take care of them. Culturing medium, the sewer system, and cells, strong or weak. because you have to understand cells, even though it may not seem scientific, but cells have all levels of vibrancy, all levels of health, just like people do. And someone asked me why some people survive chemotherapy. There are a few, and when you start going up past 5 years and 10 years, the number gets quite small, but there are some that have, no question. Some eat better, that helps them. Most of the people that do survive, though, have George Burns genes. There's no question about it. I've seen this all and over again. Don't fool yourself. It isn't as large of a group as you think. And as you start going up to 5 years and 10 years, you start seeing that group go way down. But there are some, no question about it. Not saying there isn't. But if you're going to Las Vegas and you see 95% of what you gamble with, you're going to lose, and only 5% you're going to make it, you're going to win, are you going to gamble on that 5%? You know, most people wouldn't, especially if they work hard and they save their money. They're not going to go and only have a 5% chance to win. And that's what it is with chemo. You only have a 5, and I might be pushing that figure. Look at the Berinsky show, and it shows you some of the percentages of people that survive. Doesn't say past 5 years, but it does show you the percentages of people that survive chemo with, say, brain cancer and things like this. And it ain't very much. At least Berinsky's up around 25%. Still not very good considering our field gets around 90-95%. So, big difference. If you want to run that risk, go ahead, but I'd first get the iridology done. Because you look at a lot of, the older people can survive better, no question. Their cells are stronger, their limbs are moving better. So most of the younger people, they don't do well with chemo at all because they're genetically compromised. Much, much more. No one does well with it. Don't make that mistake. It's not candy. So this is the thing that you have to understand. You have to look at where you're gambling here. And I think it will be a crime whenever our criminal justice department decides to be honest and start really focusing on truth and reality instead of political crap and all the money. When we start having truth and honesty in our judicial system, I think I'm going to die and have a heart attack, because it'll be like, that'll be the change of the world, because honesty, integrity, and law is something this country has a big lacking, and yet we stick our chests out like we have a lot of it. And look at the Italians, no offense, but I mean, you know, we have serious problems in law all around the world, no question. Too bad. Too bad, you know. Honesty and integrity is the only hallmarks that should exist. And you know, and the rights and the freedoms of others. But anyway, everybody's got lines to a certain extent in the way medical looks. You could call it an autoimmune problem. Here's another autoimmune disease. What your daughter has is weak kidneys, weak adrenal glands. She's got a lymph system that needs to be moved, because this systemic acidosis or systemic inflammation is the precursor to all the breaking down of cells that they call cancer or any other thing. You know, the arthritis, they're all cut from the same wood, same tree. You know, these are not different things, and then you got to seek all these different remedies, because we haven't seen anybody couldn't cure themselves of any of these things. Some people are working hard at it, there's no question, and some people have to get to the top of the mountain. A lot of people are not visiting the top of the mountain, and sometimes it's going to take you to do that. Don't get frustrated. I can tell you that mostly, if you're not at that high level of fruit and intertwining some fruit fast, you could plateau and not get as deep as you would like. So if you're on raw and you reach a plateau, you dig deeper, because you're going to see the difference. And a lot of you have already made great comments of the difference when you got into the fruit level. Okay. All right. So I didn't get much here, but I've got to go here, but I'll definitely revisit this. I apologize, I got carried away, but I did want to get into that the creation thing again. I'll stay away from that now, but I think it's important that one understands how creation's put together. And it's not a religious thing like I believe this and I don't believe this and this and this. There's nothing to do with this. How do we function? How is things put together? It's not a limit on God. It's not a belief system. It's not ideologies. it's facts. How factual? What do we know? How can we perceive? How can we go beyond this physical limitation where the awareness is extremely restricted, and how we can go and really balloon out there and see more of the all and enjoy the Supreme Being and its and understand how we and that are one. So I love you all. I apologize this isn't much longer, but I've got so much to do. I'm going on vacation here in a week and a half or so, so I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks maybe. But I'll get all caught up. I'll come in tomorrow, and I think I have to come in for somebody anyway. But I'll come in tomorrow and try to shoot an hour or two and catch up and get all your questions answered for you. So thank you so much, and thank you again for taking your time and viewing these videos. My heart is open to you. I thank you. I know God thanks you. You know, the light bearers. We are the light bearers, and I want you all to know that. You're great light bearers, and that's what this world needs, is all of you guys and bringing the light into this world so the constipation can be gone. See you later. Bye-bye. Wait a minute, I don't have my little hat, my little birthday hat. Oh, hello there, guys. I'm adding this to this segment of videos here because of this suffering young guy right here, Street Magic. Any guy with a name like that, man? You have the chronic cystic acne and stuff. You know what? Slow way down, man. Slow way down. The Lymph Node 2 capsules. I've informed the people back there to let people know about these because we've had to hire some new people. They weren't uninformed. That's our fault. We're just so busy. But slow way down. When you see this severe acne, you know your lymph system is really backed up. You know that your kidneys aren't filtering worth a squat and you have weak adrenals. So sometimes when you start detoxing, and I've mentioned this before, you can have more of an aggressive response. So slow way down. I would say use those kidney formulas and just use a little bit of lymphatic formula, like Lymph Node 2. If you got another lymphatic formula, use that for a while first until you break through with this, man, and you'll make it through this. Hang in there. Don't get discouraged. Call us. I mean, you're a case where we don't mind you calling us because you're hurting, you're in trouble, and we teach you to back up and go a little slower, move more on the kidneys and adrenals, and less pulling lymph right now. You didn't know the Lymph Node 2 capsules were that aggressive. So you can do one capsule a day with that one, one twice a day with that one, or come off of that one and use a, say, lymphatic 4, which I would probably suggest that one first. I like that one first because of its astringent value on the kidneys themselves, and it's not so aggressive, I don't think, systemically. But again, when you start moving the lymph system and those kidneys are not filtering, this is what you see, an exacerbation of the symptom. And we see a lot of people going out the skin badly. I hear you're suffering. So you got to slow down. At least work on the kidneys and adrenals with the raw foods. If any lymphatic formula is too much for you. Some people are so bad we have to slow way back up, and sometimes we have to jog right or we have to jog left. That's why I said a lot of videos ago that detoxification is an art. Detoxification is an art. And you guys will learn this through your own issues like this guy. Street Magic, you're just part of a process that that is an art form, because there are cases like yours where we had to back up with the lymph, we have to move a little to the right maybe, but keep those kidneys going, keep the adrenals going for those kidneys, and slow way down on the lymph system, and that should back up. Put yourself in some salt water here. Get you a saltwater bath. Be very helpful there to cooling everybody down. If you have to, take some bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate in the mouth. You can call in here for the recipe, but when you're having this bad of symptoms, call in Street Magic or anybody else out there that the symptoms explode on you, because it is possible. And always remember, when you're working with someone like that, that their lymph systems are in trouble, but they're in trouble because of their kidneys and adrenals. And that's where the door is. That's where the problem is. And so that has to be fixed. I've tried to design this so we have a better pull, where we're pulling on the kidneys and we're working with the adrenals that turns on the kidneys, and at the same time we're pulling lymphatically. So I'm trying to do that in a rhythmatic manner. But sometimes, even as the way we do is too aggressive, we got to slow up lymphatically. That's okay, because you've got to get through this, and we'll work with you any way possible. Don't freak out. I know you're in pain, so cool yourself down. Get yourself into some salt water. Like I said, you can do some bicarbonate. Stay on fruit. Stop the lymphatics if you have to. Stay on the kidneys and the adrenals, though. That's really where the door is, and you should be okay there. If not, just call and we'll work you through this. But that's what you have to do. You stop the herbs for a while. Yeah, that gave swollen. Yeah, the lymph nodes. See where it gave you swollen glands? Because it's a strong formula moving lymph if lymph's moving. And that's the problem with cystic acne and all these problems, that lymph isn't moving well, and you're just a good case for that. Don't get discouraged, man. I'm telling you, because there's no other doorway for you. So don't get discouraged. This other comment, I'm just adding this real quick. It's our lunch period here, but it's high blood pressure. High blood pressure, and I've talked about this several times. High blood pressure is kidneys and adrenals. Kidneys primarily popping up the adrenals. The adrenals is the systolic, the kidneys are the diastolic. Check blood pressure both arms. Different blood pressure each side of the body depending upon the weakness of the kidneys. I just had a cancer case in here. He was 80/40. Tell me that kidney's hardly working. 80/40. Cancer all through him. Of course, he's doing chemo and stuff, so that can be very problematic for that boy. These people rarely come out of it. So, real serious weaknesses we have, and a lot of people don't understand the kidney connection to this lymph system, but more and more people are, like you guys, so I'm real proud of you that way. Just don't get discouraged. Swinging blood pressure is always the cerebellum here. Swinging. That's tied neurologically, that is lymph pressure in the cerebellum. This, I would say, is probably more difficult to remedy in a fast manner, in the sense that you got to drain lymph down that neck, down the back, and out the kidneys. And you got to get those kidneys working. Steady high blood pressure, always kidneys. Always, always, always. So when you start going on raw and you start moving the lymph and you're moving the kidneys, because this raw foods helps to invigorate the kidneys. Now, fruits, berries, and melons are incredible kidney invigorators. So it invigorates the kidneys. It helps the kidneys to filter, increases the adrenal gland function, increases neurological function, because the fruits lend its energy, and it has the highest energy of all foods. It lends its energy to your nervous system better than anything else. So it helps to get the kidneys to moving and filtering, and therefore you find blood pressure dropping quite quickly in most cases. Once in a while we get a stubborn case, but certainly if you're on high blood pressure, I would recommend the cayenne garlic formula. There's a little bit of organic cayenne in there that dilates the vascular system, kind of like niacin does. You could use it in a niacinamide, which is a buffered niacin, to dilate a little bit. But the reality is not blood. The reality, this is a kidney problem. And that's mainly lymphatics. It definitely touches blood, no question about it. So work on the kidneys and the adrenals. Move those lymphs, because if it's a swinging, remember it's back here, and if it's a steady high blood pressure, it's your kidneys. And the kidneys will always influence the adrenals. So your systolic will always be higher when the kidneys are inflamed or swollen or acidic, as I like to say. But in reality, this is a low blood pressure case. You're going to find low adrenal function here. Once you see the blood pressure coming down, it's going to come down, come down, come down, and your systolic is going to go low. Your diastolic should stop between 60 and 70. Textbook blood pressure, both sides, 120 over 60. Not 80, 120 over 60. Textbook. Anything lower systolically, low blood pressure, weak adrenal glands. And you can't gauge that until you detoxify for a while, where you're bringing the stance or the magnetics of the body to the genetics, because most people are highly acidic, and acids are stimulants, proteins are stimulants, and so in an acid environment, everything is hyperactive. And so even though there's hypoactivity in that same thing, it's like this thing about tachycardia, PTOS, or POTS. Same thing. You know, acidosis always hyperstimulates everything. And so it destroys the myelin sheaths. It just hyperstimulates everything and makes things hypo. Sometimes the tachycardia is due to hypoactivity. You have to understand that. The thyroid there's a lot of reasons the body's heart rate goes up. Not in a tachycardia where you're above 100 or 150, but in a higher heart rate, sometimes the body has to move blood around faster to oxygenate the body quicker. There's a lot of factors of why the body does what it does, so I don't try to intervene with that way, in the sense that, like someone wrote, they had a person that detoxified, and of course it brought the POTS to normal. But in reality, that's all that it is. You strengthen and you clean, and there isn't anything, whether it's mediated or POTS or whatever you're dealing with, the neurological system, the liver, the lungs, it just does not matter. If it deals with serotonins, neurotransmitters, it just does not matter. If it's a pituitary that controls everything, it does not matter. These are all still a bunch of cells and two major fluids. And the problem is 99% always in the lymph system. That's the acid system, and acids are always seems to be at the core of this artificial stimulation or innervation. Either one. Both of them have the same effect on tissue. So I have to run now, but I will try to I got a load of questions now, so I'll try to get to them, guys, as the best I can and as soon as I can. Kind of in a hurry today, but I appreciate that. And listen, Street Magic, relax, slow down, cool yourself down, get yourself some saltwater baths, and back this down, and it will back down. Even sometimes on raw foods, you'll get the accelerated skin rashes and stuff, and of course all the pain in the cysts and stuff. You can do that just in the raw foods, but if you have to, you go slower. That's all I can tell you. Sometimes the herbs are too aggressive. The kidney herbs are not going to be aggressive in that way, and neither are the adrenal gland herbs. The lymphatic herbs, those are the boys. They're aggressive. They're astringent. They pull on your lymph system. It's okay to pull on your lymph system if your kidneys are filtering, and that just showed you and me that your kidneys are not filtering worth a poop. So you got to get your kidneys up, and you'll be all right, man. So hang in there. Don't get discouraged. And you can call in when you're a serious case like this and you're in pain and trouble. Call in here, guys. All right? Well, even though we're busy a lot here and staff, we'll get you. We'll get you. Hang in there. Don't freak out. All right. Thank you so much, and talk to you all later. Thank you. God bless all. Love you all.